And emotionally, women from places like Basingstoke and Bournemouth, between 9 and 12 in all, who handed over something like £250,000. They'd all been members of the Match.com online dating agency. They'd gone there in all innocence looking to find partners. But they were also targeted by the fraudsters who created fake profiles of men. The women were lured into handing over sums between £4,000 and £10,000 in most cases. One woman handed over £174,000. Much of the money was laundered through banks in Southsea. The Crown Prosecution Service says it will use the law to try and claw back some of that money. But in many cases, this is not about the money. This is about women losing their dignity and their confidence. Duncan Kennedy, BBC South Today at Winchester Crown Court.
Well, dating websites have increasingly become a target for scammers, preying on people seeking relationships. Sarah Jane Johnson from Hazelmere in Surrey became a victim after she was contacted through Match.com. She lost £300, but she was close to sending the fraudsters thousands. Sarah Jane believes dating sites should do more to warn people about scammers. She's been telling James Ingham her story.
To me, it was a total package. You know, nice man, he looked nice, he had a good job, he was sensitive, in touch with his feelings. We were sort of communicating on quite a deep emotional level.
It all seemed so perfect, but these photographs were stolen, used by scammers to create Connor, a character with a story which Sarah Jane believed.
Within 10 days to a couple of weeks, I could feel that I was developing feelings for this person. I was really entranced with his voice. It was very deep, almost hypnotic, lovely French accent.
Connor weaved a complex story. He said he was in charge of a large construction project in South Africa and needed to pay taxes, so he'd be paid by the government for his work before returning to the UK. Then came the first gentle request for money. Sarah Jane sent £300, but there was pressure for more. And every time she became wary, Connor's calls and emails drew her back in.
Emails like this one: I had a dream last night about us. I saw you on the pier. The wind was blowing through your hair and your eyes held the fading sunlight. I raise my hand and gently touch your cheek. I know this is the moment I've been waiting for, and I pray that this moment never ends. So I am pulled back in again.
Sarah Jane was close to sending £13,000 until a friend sent her a blog full of similar stories, and she finally realised she'd been conned.
I spent 2 days crying a lot of the time. My initial feeling, really upset, and then I felt really angry. I felt really angry that someone had chosen to do this to me.
Sarah Jane says she will never try online dating again. She wants others to learn from her mistakes. James Ingham, BBC South Today, Hazelmere.
In a statement about the court case, Match.com told us, unfortunately, there is a tiny minority of people out there who want to exploit others over the internet. We advise people to use the same common sense as they would if they were meeting someone in a bar or a pub. We make it clear that you should never send money to anyone you meet online. Well, in response to Sarah Jane's concerns, the company added, as part of our safe dating advice, we stress the importance of communicating only through the site. Unfortunately, as Sarah Jane started communicating on email, she did not know that we had shut that profile down. To other news now, the luxury car maker Rolls-Royce has tonight announced a big expansion in West Sussex. It's to build a new technology centre in Bognor Regis, a stone's throw from its main production plant at Goodwood. It'll employ 200 people, but only a handful will be new jobs. The Bognor unit will be in an area that could become an enterprise zone, offering incentives to the companies based there. Let's cross live now to our business correspondent, Alistair Fee. He's at the Rolls-Royce's headquarters at Goodwood. Alistair.
Sally, the first cars came off the production line here in 2003. I've got the full lineup here beside me, the Ghost, the Phantom and the Wraith. Now, what Goodwood hasn't had is room to expand, but that issue has now been solved at a new site just 8 miles away. It's been a closely guarded secret, but finally Rolls-Royce today confirmed its plans for the future.
This is a significant development, and the local area as well. It reinforces our commitment to the area here, and I'm really delighted that you all came in here to share that great news here, not only for us, but also I think for the local area. Thanks for coming.
No change in its headquarters or the county it calls home, but it has found a location for a large new centre.
The plant is growing, and we needed to free some space. It gives us freedom to grow even further also with our ideas here internally, how we produce cars. People and customers are demanding more and more bespoke content in Rolls-Royces, and that also helps us to cope with that demand in the markets.
On the northern side of Bognor Regis, covering 30,000 square metres, Rolls-Royce is building a new technology and logistics centre. It will be bigger than 4 football pitches. They won't be making cars here, but it will play a significant part in its operation. We're told of the buildings here, there'll be 3 main functions: a warehouse for parts, a distribution centre for new cars, and a workshop for car preparation. The choice of location means Rolls-Royce is likely to be the first major company to take advantage of plans for a new enterprise zone.
It is a major boost to our bid to become an enterprise zone in that part of Bognor Regis, but also the very fact that Rolls-Royce is investing so much money in creating a facility 3/4 of the size of the Goodwood facility in our town, I think will in the near future, encourage a lot of other companies.
The Rolls-Royce company began in 1906. The cars became the choice of the rich and famous, leading the luxury market. The British company was finally bought by BMW, a move that saw them relocate car manufacturing to West Sussex. Rolls-Royce has seen a record 33% rise in sales. 2014 has been its best year yet and is expected to build 4,000 new vehicles. None of the 1,500 employees here knew of this announcement until late afternoon.
It's pretty special, really. It will open a lot of jobs for other people, and hopefully we can expand.
Good access to the new site will be critical. 2 major infrastructure projects are already underway. A new Northern Relief Road and improvements to the A29 are both designed to reduce congestion. More than 200 people will be based at the Technology and Logistics Centre, which is expected to open in 2016. Well, joining me now here at Goodwood is David Myers from the Bognor Regis Regeneration Board. David, what do you hope will be the knock-on effect of today's announcement?
Well, first of all, we're very excited to have Rolls-Royce Motors in Bognor Regis, and we think the knock-on effect is going to be quite important, and in fact very important to Bognor Regis. The Enterprise Bognor Regis initiative we set up is going to attract new businesses into the town, and we're very hopeful that there'll be some motor sector business to come on the back of the Rolls-Royce motor investment.
Surely to incentivise getting new businesses to come here, you're going to need that enterprise zone status. Are you confident that that will come?
Well, we're very hopeful that it will happen. The government's still making up its mind as to whether they will give us that status. But we have a very good infrastructure within Bognor Regis. We have just under 100 acres of land, which is available for commercial and industrial development. And we believe that that's going to offer companies a lot of advantages and to come into Bognor Regis very quickly, as Rolls-Royce have done.
David Myers, thank you very much for joining me. Well, a boost for employees here today then at Goodwood, and possibly also a new chapter in the fortunes of Bognor Regis. Sally.
Alistair in Goodwood, thank you very much. Now, as you may have heard, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge say they're delighted with the news they're expecting their second child. The news that Prince George will be getting a baby brother or sister was welcomed in Bucklebury, the Berkshire village where Kate grew up.
Hope she keeps better health this time, because she was quite poorly, wasn't she, with Prince George?
I think they're fantastic parents, and another little royal baby.
It's great news. Good for the village, of course. Everyone will be thrilled around here. So, lovely.
Stay with us, still to come in this evening's South Today. Could Portsmouth pull off a giant killing and beat Manchester to become the first city of football? Asher King is tonight in a Prague hospital ahead of planned proton beam treatment. That's allowed a UK judge to remove the legal order which had made the 5-year-old a ward of court. Before Asher was taken from Southampton General Hospital last week, doctors there had questioned the benefit of the proton beam therapy. Well, our health correspondent David Fenton is here with me now. He's been following the story right from the beginning. Has their position changed, the hospital?
Not really, Sally, and I think what we've seen is this ongoing war of words, really, between Southampton General and this clinic in Prague over whether this proton beam therapy, which, remember, is costing about £60,000, over whether it's really necessary. Now, the doctors here say it won't do Asher any harm, but equally it won't do anything that they couldn't do with their normal radiotherapy. And, of course, that was what the parents objected to in the first place.
There was no benefit in Asher's case for proton radiotherapy. We do not say that it was unacceptable treatment. In Asher's case, with the type of tumour that he has, is that because we have to irradiate the spinal cord and most of the brain because of the tumour, the advantages that you would get from proton radiotherapy were not as great.
David, is this just the hospital trying to defend itself?
So I think there is a point in that, but also I think that genuinely they believe that medically they're in the right. That said, in the last half hour they have said they wish Asher well in Prague and hope that he makes a full recovery. Of course, the fact is that he is now over there and probably likely to start therapy pretty soon.
Proton therapy, you know, of course, that's a treatment of choice, and according to current knowledge, it should spare child some of late effects of treatment. So, but we will see.
A couple of other developments, Sally. As you mentioned earlier, a judge has now lifted this ward of court order on Asher. Also, I understand that Portsmouth City Council is writing to the family to ask what's happening with the schooling for their other children. You remember there's about 3 that are still school age, and of course the classes went back this week. I gather they may be sending out some home education packs to the family if they can find an address for them.
David, thank you very much. Police are continuing to question 2 people about the murder of a mother of 5 who was stabbed to death on a New Forest farm. The body of Penny Davis was found in a field near Bewley on Tuesday afternoon. A 37-year-old man arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender has been released on bail. A 24-year-old woman is still in custody, and police have been given extra time to question a 22-year-old man on suspicion of murder. A new Coast Guard control room started taking responsibility for the Solent today. Next week it will replace Portland Coast Guard as well. It marks the end of a controversial process strongly opposed by coastal communities, Coast Guards themselves and some politicians. The new base is inland at Fareham. It will be responsible for coastal safety from Beachy Head in East Sussex right down to Topsham in Devon, but also have overall national control. The Coast Guards Union has warned that a loss of local knowledge will put lives at risk. Our transport correspondent Paul Clifton reports.
This is the National Maritime Operations Centre. When a Mayday signal is received, the Coast Guard teams, lifeboats, helicopters and other rescuers will be run from here.
Unlike older Coast Guard centres, from here you can't see the sea. In fact, you can barely see daylight. Does that really matter? After all, air traffic controllers at Swanwick can't see aircraft. Highways Agency officers can't look out over traffic jams. Today, good communications is all about computers.
So, the old Coast Guard base at Lyon-the-Solent will close later this week. Portland will close a week later. Mark Rodaway used to work at Portland.
Portland was a lovely station to work at and very capable in its day, but this is a step change in technology.
The Coast Guard Union says the new centre has led to a brain drain. Half the Coast Guards in some areas have applied for voluntary redundancy.
The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency hasn't actually brought a lot of the staff with them. They're going to be losing a lot of staff with a lot of experience that won't be transferring to this new supercentre, and our concern is that that will affect ultimately operations in the future.
This place was built as a fire service headquarters, but it was never used for that. Since 2008 it has stood empty, rented by government at £120,000 a month.
I suspect this is to do with money. It's not all to do with money, to be fair. It did need modernising, if that's the right word. But I think they've modernised, if you like, too far.
Nearly 50 coastguards will work here, increasing to 100 in a year's time. A combination of National Control Centre and the 24/7 local centre for the South Coast, ending what has been a very controversial process. Paul Clifton, BBC South Today, Fareham.
Pensioners from the south who were sold shared appreciation mortgages have called for help in getting banks to change what they describe as crippling mortgage terms. Inside Out South has been investigating after being told by some homeowners they've been left trapped in their properties. John Cuthill has more.
When Brian Daughtry retired after working for charities abroad, he had little in the way of a pension. So he was tempted by the offer of a £35,000 interest-free loan from the Bank of Scotland in return for a 75% share in any increase in the value of his New Forest home. Since then, property prices have soared, and if he sold the house tomorrow, he'd have to give the bank more than £232,000. Thousands of such mortgages were sold, but a group action against the banks failed before the details could ever be assessed in court. The banks argued technicalities until the legal funds ran out.
The way it's turned out, it's very unfortunate. They are really in a difficult situation.
Both banks say they can't change the mortgage terms and that at the time pensioners were advised to take independent advice. But they say they do try to help people who are trapped in homes that no longer meet their needs. John Cuthill, BBC South Today.
And you can see Inside Out tonight at the later time of 8 o'clock here on BBC One. It's one of the biggest fleets of green buses in Europe, and today a specially built filling station was opened for Reading's gas-powered buses. State-of-the-art facility was built with a grant from the Department of Transport. Gas gives out much lower CO2 emissions and smoke than diesel. And as Ben Moore reports, the drive to be eco-friendly is catching on in the town.
When Reading buses need to fill up with gas, they do just that. The depot's new £1 million natural gas station has been paid for in the main by the government.
We find Reading is a great place to trial new ideas because it's willing to take on that kind of risk and innovation, and we want other cities across the UK who can also access funding if they choose to come and take a look at what's happening here.
There are 34 of these buses and all are now in service, but if eco-friendly public transport is your thing, the bus is not the only way to travel. Taxis are now on board too. Of the town's 216 black cabs, 113 are being converted to hybrid natural compressed gas at a cost of £370,000.
For once, the finger will not be pointed at taxis and say, look, there's a polluted vehicle going along the road. You know, it will be cleaner, which can only improve the image of the trade in Reading.
Does that mean fares are going to go down? As two forms of public transport go green, there's a spirit of collaboration.
We fuel our buses in a great hurry in the evening when they come back off service, and so during the day this depot is largely empty, and the